and welcome to the links. Sun is shining, birds are singing, it's spring! And that brings us to another holiday. Many people celebrating Easter these days, and so I wanted to make a special doll for that holiday. Like all of my specials this year, it's going to be another spirit of my doll universe, like Venora and Adora. I'm also finally working on a dedicated website for my doll universe, with maps, character sheets, all the stories and much more. It's a very big project, but I share work-in-progress pictures and sneak peeks on my Patreon website. Please take a look if you're interested. Everybody sees the same content and it's completely up to you with how much you can support me. But let's start with the doll, right? For this project I wanted to use my very first Ever After High doll. It's actually the only one I have, which is a little sad, because I really like the body. The head is already shrunken massively, but still looks a little big in my opinion. Starting with her head, the first thing was of course to cut out her eyes. All my dolls get inserted eyes, so that's always the first step. I wanted hers to be a little smaller than her original ones, but still cute and round. Cutting a shrunken head is way easier for me personally, because the plastic gets way harder during the shrinking process. At first it was pretty unusual, but I ended up realizing that my cuts got way cleaner this way. I just can work more precisely, which I really like. Another thing I learned over time is to keep switching between the eyes. I used to finish one eye first before working on the other one, but they never really turned out similar. Working on both on the same time though really helped me with that. When I get close to the end, I slit up the head. This is necessary to insert the eyes later, and it makes it easier to thin out the plastic on the inside. All my spirits have a lower horse body, so they're either centaurs or satyrs. This one will be a satyr again, which means she will have only 2 horse legs instead of 4. I found the file of a horse doll on Thingiverse and printed just the lower halves of the back legs with my resin 3D printer. The plan was to only replace her lower doll leg and keep the knee joint this way. But that also meant that the horse legs needed some modification too, to fit better to her original ones. To connect them I used wire. Normally ball jointed dolls are strung with an elastic, but since I do not plan to ever take her apart, I used wire instead. For a strong hold, I then looped the wire around the last leg piece and then through the 2 holes in her original leg. That was the moment I realized that the horse part was still too big and needed more sanding. So I took everything apart again, sanded and put it back together. I also put the head back on the body and inserted some wire in her ears. After that I took my hot glue gun and secured the wire inside the head. That also gives the epoxy a better hold, so it's always a good idea to do that. While I was at it, I also filled the gaps on her legs with hot glue and made the whole construction a little more stable this way. All the spirits have some sort of antlers, and this one should have been no exception. So I also put some wire in her head cap. And with that, it was finally time for my lovely epoxy sculpt. The first layer is always pretty messy, just to secure all the modifications or build the basic structure. After that's dry, I sand it down and go with another layer of epoxy to smooth out transition or define structures. It does take longer overall, but I can get better results this way instead of just making everything in one go. In the end, I also worked with Mr. Surfacer and sandpaper to make it all even smoother. After that, I sprayed the doll with a plastic primer and took my airbrush to give her some color. Because of the sanding and the grey Mr. Surfacer spray, her legs needed a little touch-up first. Next, I tried to mix her skin color and sprayed her upper body with that. It's not exactly the doll's original skin tone, but I'm just not so good with mixing colors. For the transition between light flesh and black, I chose a very reddish brown and tried to blend it smoothly with the other colors. Why this color, you ask? Well, I took inspiration from the color scheme of an okapi for her, since these animals look as if they were out of a fantasy world already. In the end, I secured the colors with a few layers of sealant before spraying the doll with Mr. Super Clear to start the face up. As you can see, I tried out a new camera angle this time, and hope you can see the process a little better. But not only the recording was different, I also wanted to try out some new techniques on painting the face up this time. So that meant that I started blushing with blues and gave her cheeks a way more saturated blushing than usual. I really admire all these artists who can make a doll look incredibly realistic, and I really do want to improve. Being it on face-ups, eye making, or wig making. It may be spring that I'm so hyped and motivated. Who knows? Back to the doll, I painted her scalp with a fitting hair color and secured my progress with another layer of sealant. After that, I went straight in with gouache colors to get the basic features of her face down before adding more pastels. This time I luckily remembered to use gouache instead of acrylic, so that I could always wipe away any mistakes. Especially eyebrows are so hard for me to draw, no matter what I do. They always look not so good, in my opinion. I hope I'll figure that out one day. While you keep watching me painting her face, let me tell you a little fun fact about this doll. When I started with doll repaints, I wanted to convince my longest friend to try it as well, and gave her this doll. She already started rerouting her, but it was clear that she wasn't as much into it as I was. Still, she's a great supporter of my work, and so I plan to make her a doll as a thank you. I already made several dolls that I wanted to gift her, but I ended up feeling like they were not good enough and such. So now I finally took the doll it all started with, and also chose the same yarn she once took, as you will see later, to finally make her own doll. After the face-up was done, I gave her some lashes by putting a little glue inside the eye hole and pressing the lashes against it with a toothpick. I originally wanted to give her these eyes that I made, but I soon realized that they were too big, unfortunately. So I had to make another pair and glued that in her head. Like I already said, I wanted to give her the same yarn hair that my friend chose back then. But as a little extra, I curled the wefts to give her beautiful locks. Filming that is always a little tricky for me. I also tried another angle, but nothing turned out really good. Still, here you can see the result. I really do love the look, to be honest. All my spirits have fur on their chest, and the ones with only 2 hooves also have fur on their hip. For her, I chose the same yarn I used for her hair and glued that carefully on her body. They usually don't wear any clothes, but she was supposed to be a little different than the other spirits. Not only because she was the most human looking. I had the original cape from the Red Riding Hood Ever After High doll and ripped it apart to sew an identical cape with different fabric. And here she is! I am really happy with her outcome, even though she looks a little more like an elf girl instead of a deerish spirit. When I was thinking of a name for her, it was clear to me that it has to end with Aura, like the others too. That wasn't planned at all, but Adora's name was a must, and then I realized they both ended with Aura, so I now decided to make it their trait. Moreover, this doll was supposed to be involved with secrets and myth, so it was a fast decision on Secora. Every time a spirit gets born, one can feel the tremble of magic in the whole world. But when Secora was born, there was nothing. Most people even doubt she exists, especially because these spirits barely show themselves to others. But there's another strange thing about Secora. People who claimed to see her were people from Mogra and Eben. Unlike the other spirits, she seems to be the only one crossing the magic border, visiting the human kingdom. Yet another mystery is her reason to be born. Eerynor came to life in the first night of peace between Eben and Mogra. Adora got born when the first couple of a human and a magic being confessed their love to each other. But Secora? Even though there are many people who don't believe she exists or doubt her existence as a spirit, there are also people saying she indeed is one of the most mysterious spirits of all. Legends say she came to life when a secret organization was founded, a mysterious society committed to the task of finding out the truth about the war, about the magic wall, and all the secrets of Eerynor. They call themselves the Blind Arrow. That was Secora's little story. I hope you liked it as well as her whole video. She will get her own entry with all her information in my Word website. It's currently a work in progress that I regularly share with my patrons, but in about 1 year I will hopefully make it public. So yeah, I hope you're as excited as I am. Until then, have a wonderful day, my little lynxes, and happy holidays! Thank you so much for all your amazing support and lovely words. See you soon! Tschüss!